starting to drift a bit under pressure. He's still 2.5 clear from Aeliana, and then Vauban going to clear third. It's game on at the 100. Duboyana a length and a half. Aeliana is knuckling down. Duboyana, Aeliana, lunge, got there. It's Belchevelle wandering under pressure from Salty Pearl. I hope he wins, hasn't got there yet. It's Belchevelle, Salty Pearl, Belchevelle, Salty Pearl. After summer through the middle, but Belchevelle! Oh, this is
United States of America!
Whiskey on the Hill at the 150 over a length, Let's Deal, then Paradise Storm. Whiskey on the Hill's brave. Whiskey on the Hill is clear. Whiskey on the Hill is going to win it, and Ernest won in the great race. Pride of Jenny digs in, finds reserves, a length in front. Light Infantry Man looking to go back to back. Coming at Pride of Jenny, Apulia late. Pride of Jenny with the heart of a lioness. Coming at a Light Infantry Man. A photo finish.
And now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the year-round carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphie.
Do you see the light? Said James Brown and the Blues Brothers, and you saw the Light Infantryman. You saw one of the greatest races we've seen, really, with Pride and Jenny leading them up in a usual gallant style. And we also did it at the Tancred with Duboyana and Aeliana going to war, and Aeliana getting the money there. So all that audio courtesy of racing.com and Sky Racing, as we say, welcome to Year-Round Carnival and welcome to Vince Accardi from Daily Sexuals. Good morning, mate.
Yeah, good morning, Ralphie. What a race that was. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Unbelievable. What a race.
Well, we're starting with the Australian Cup. That's it. Now, before I actually get to the race itself, we often marvel at Liam O'Keefe. I'm pretty confident just about every track in the world would have been a heavy 10 on Saturday. What did we end up getting?
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough. Well, just do the simple math, Ralphie. Race 1, 15.5 below benchmark on the Raws. Race 2, 9. Race 3, small field, 19 below benchmark. Race 4, 1,100 metres up the straight, good speed, 13 below benchmark. Race 5, good speed, 10 below benchmark, or 11, 12. That's the theme, Ralphie. I don't believe it was a heavy track.
Yep.
I feel it was more like in the S7 range.
Yep.
That's what it felt like. And there was plenty of proof because you look at that first split time, maybe in the middle, was a little bit softer than the normal overall, but I don't really feel, I mean, there one or two races which sort of hit that heavy track range, they were structured up by race shape.
Yes. Now, to the Australian Cup itself. So, Pride of Jenny, I remember after we did the Derby Day talk and you said, oh, it's another Bo Rogan. Then I'll end up looking this up. Bo Rogan 15 starts as a 70-year-old, all unplaced, and was retired. Pride of Jenny's at 8. So what did she do on Saturday? And more to the point, talk us through the speed that she produced on Saturday.
Yeah, I feel there's a couple of beauties there, Ralphie. Because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking exactly about the Bo Rogue days, right?
Yeah.
Back in those days, no one ever even attempted to want to get near it. And in the beginning, this was the same with Pride of Jenny. It would go out these breakneck speeds. No one's going to attempt to even remotely stay close. But in the modern time, I'm going to call it now, in recent times, no matter how fast Pride of Jenny is going, she forces now the arm of other horses to be making sure they're within a certain range. It's like you've got to be on or around that elastic band, Ralphie, and that just forces the entire field to feel pressure, super high pressure. I have no doubt if no one applied that and they just do what they used to do years ago and just let the horse run on its own and no one challenges, Pride of Jenny would never get beaten. It'll be that far in front, turning for home, that it wouldn't matter how slow you went late. You're never going to catch it. 20.5 lengths above benchmark. Are you kidding me? I mean, that is unbelievable.
So I've worked with you for, I think, 13 years, and I reckon I've seen it 3 times. One was Pride of Jenny. The other one was the Cleaner in Winx's first Fox Plate. And maybe the Cleaner did it one other time, but I've never seen it. So that's what I said. In 13, 14 years together, I reckon I've seen a plus 20 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. 2 preps back, the horse came very close. 19.6, 2,000 metres Doomben.
Yes.
If you remember that, Ralphie, back in May of 25, and now we went 20.6. It is unbelievable, really and truly. And then, of course, I even thought on the line it still won. But no, it didn't. And the courage, I guess, of all the other horses chasing it, but it was one of the greatest races I could imagine. It was just unbelievable. Still can't believe it.
So light infantry, man. It's amazing. One of I've mentioned this a few times. One of the great truisms of racing. I first heard it from Mark Lambourne, Sydney-based guy on the old punter show. The first up run tells you where they're at. It really does. And there's actually the case that we'll get to Whiskey on the Hill, but we wrote this in Sizzlers. 1.8 lengths above benchmark, ranked 3rd on the day. Brilliant return. This is at Caulfield on the 7th of February, off a 70-day freshen, coping with high sustained speed, plus 4.7 and plus 4.4 in the first 2 sections before least tired late, minus 3.1 last 400, matched his Blamey figure from last March before he won the Australian Cup with 3.1 lengths above benchmark. Didn't really come up in the spring after starting his prep on a bog-heavy ground, but bought his A game and can be expected to maintain it off this run. So he had a sideways run at Caulfield, but as we keep saying, the horse that's set for the big grand final produced in grand final day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the overall performance score, 2.2 lengths above the benchmark standard. So you take a look at that and say, on that number, I get it, right? And this horse here did have to go a PB early to win the race, Ralphie. And
yes,
13.6 lengths above benchmark. That is unbelievable as well, just for this horse. Never, ever got near that speed. I mean, there was one run this time last year. It was 10.3. So another 3 lengths higher. Didn't have to combat the same sort of intensity over the last 800 metres because they went that fast. But overall, 2.2 lengths above benchmark. Didn't quite top out as high as the race last year for the horse. It was probably a length behind that. And from my perspective, I thought that's about right. But that's all you need to do to win it. And this horse won it. I mean, again, that's another big training feat as well, to be able to do that, Ralphie. It can't be easy.
I dare say, and this is a question to you about your numbers, but I dare say when you get such an outlier early and they're so tired late, it's probably impossible to produce a big number, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you look at the last...
Lesser at Winx.
Yeah, or maybe if the track was a bit faster.
Yes.
Then we probably would have got something more, maybe, even though I've made the best adjustment I could. But the reality is 17.4 lengths below benchmark, last 400. And you compare it to going back last year, this horse did 7.3 lengths below benchmark. And what it is the accumulation of the wet ground, that high speed early, even though it's plus 13.6 because it's a raw measurement, if you were to make an adjustment on that, it's probably more like you've got to probably add another 3 lengths, Rob, I would say, realistically. So big run as well.
When it comes to, you always say the golden spot's 3 to 6 lengths. Well, he was 7 lengths, but then you've got the 3rd and 4th horse. They're just in impossible positions, Apulia and Sabaj. So Apulia is going 9.2 lengths above benchmark, which is easily fast enough to lead most races and lead him by a margin. Instead, he's 11.4 lengths off the lead.
Yeah, and this is how you can just frank that piece of communication you just said, Ralphie. Just to see how far behind they are, let's say, light infantry man. They're tagging that horse roughly. I mean, Apulia is almost 4 lengths behind it, and Sabaj a little bit further than that, like 5.5. And then you look at that last 400, because they've gone that fast, they still couldn't reverse that gap. Because light infantry man last 400, 17.5. Apulia, going admittedly over 4 lengths slower, only pulled two lengths of ground over the last 400. It still went 15.5 below. So, yes, it was a better last 400, but that just goes to show how hard it is to bridge the gap when they're going so fast. And Sabaj, probably not any different. Another length and a half further behind from Apulia, only managed a 16.3 below benchmark last 400. And realistically,
What'd you learn from Sabaj off this race?
it's hard to say like what you learn.
Yes.
When they go that fast, Ralphie, in this ground condition.
Yep.
Because you've seen this happen. Sometimes it works out negatively for some of these horses when they're big gut-busting runs, Ralphie.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll go back to Pride of Jenny because we've got two members' questions for you.
Yep.
One is from Michael. If she runs in the Queen Elizabeth, could Jenny bring Autumn Glow undone? So Vince, that's in 2 weeks' time. So just park that for a sec because also got from Brad. Well, I've got to include this. Firstly, well done to your D's as a long-suffering Essendon supporter. Seeing Carlton cough up another big lead help bring some joy to an otherwise miserable weekend of footy. All right, back to the racing. Quick question from me, which you touched on last week. I've seen a bit of chat today after Jenny's performance yesterday, suggesting she could make difficult for Autumn Glow in the Queen Elizabeth if she brings that trademark speed. How do you see that matchup playing out of it if it goes to script? It looks like being a stacked field, so it should be a fun watch either way. So just gut feel, Vince. We'll do the race properly in 2 weeks' time, of course, but what's your gut feel now about Pride of Jenny on a 2-week backup at going to Sydney?
2-week backup. Well, Ralphie, we've got a little bit of an iron horse, haven't we?
Oh, it's just...
We just do. We do have that sort of horse. It's an iron horse, but... I actually don't know, Ralphie, with this. I genuinely don't know because the stable's just so good at managing this horse. They are just so good. They really are. All things normal, you would say colossal, difficulty to overcome 14 days later at that speed. But even if this horse wasn't going that speed, let's say, for instance, and it went half that pace, it's still high pressure.
Yes.
Realistically, I'm not looking at any numbers at Autumn Glow at the moment, but I'm pretty sure Autumn Glow's gone somewhere near plus 10 early in the past.
Yep.
And that's probably the key. If you hadn't never been anywhere near that, probably be very painful. If you have a repeat of plus 20, probably get that far in front. Maybe you can't bridge it. But they've learnt. No one lets this horse skip away anymore. They just don't let it do it. They don't let it happen.
Well, one of the things I said on Friday was that the All-Star Mile and 3-week back up to the Australian Cup was actually the perfect setup for her, unlike last year where she had bad setups and she repeatedly ran poorly after running well. I reckon this is going to be the bad setup. But as you say, with an iron horse, you can only speculate. You can't be definitive on a horse of this stature.
No, you can't. Iron horse / trainer, impossible to do that.
Yeah.
I personally was not expecting that sort of speak, given that the horse is older.
Yes.
So much harder to do it, and you've got to go back a little while. And it did it. And it did it, Ralph. I mean, how good did the horse feel then? It must have felt like unbelievable.
Oh.
You had to go so fast.
So the other fascination with this race was the robot avalanche. We see this sometimes with the World Pool on Birdman. I was actually with one of the owners on Saturday night who was shaking his head at it. It certainly wasn't his, I know that. and so they were obviously confident, as you would be. There's nothing behind the scenes that weren't in front of the scenes. But what type of medicine did he have to cope with early to make him produce a run like that?
Well, for a horse that we could absolutely state was airborne going into that race and looked like it could take anybody on. But when you feel the pressure of a 13.8 lengths above benchmark, like that smashed anything this horse had ever done in its life. Last time when it went fast, Ralphie, plus 5.2, it was out the back.
Yes.
That's only 5.2 above. So now 13.8 in this ground condition. This is what I mean. It was another unbelievable run. What's it going to do for the horse into the future? Well, you could have said goodbye to the campaign.
Yeah.
The horse absolutely collapsed over the last 400.
And I was annoyed with myself for Tom Kitten. I saw the market drift, and I thought, you know what? He's great as the Freedmans are. Peak. It's always hard to do 3 peaks.
Yeah, hard to do 3 peaks and remember the ground conditions.
Of course. Yeah.
You-
So if
another-
he's,
yeah,
you knew that it wasn't going to be a slow race, whatever was going to happen.
yeah, and this is tough because the horse is backed up from a fast run race of plus 9.6 to 11.
Yeah.
To find another new level as well, and this is the art form of when horses need to stay in contact with a brutal pace. They're just all forced into doing it, and then because they are elite horses in their own way, and they would have been like so finely tuned. The riders would have been feeling through the first half of the race, geez, we're doing good. Until you get to the back half, I mean, last 400, minus 21.3. I mean, wow. It's just like you fell off a cliff because of the pressure.
No doubt at all. The other race that worth talking about here in the main podcast is the Roy Higgins. It's not officially, of course, a Group 1, but it was a Group 1 incentive because it was the win and you're in golden ticket to the Melbourne Cup. This is our chat about Whiskey on the Hill on Friday. Whiskey on the Hill, well, how do you fault this horse when you look at the fact that the last day of the Flemington Carnival last year, genuinely heavy ground, this track, this distance, just was super. Also super was his first up run. Now, he was 66-1 that day with Damien Lane on. I've got no doubt he exceeded market expectations, and that probably resulted in a couple of sideways runs. But Damien's back on here, and this looks the big circle around the race to try and qualify for next year's Cup.
And it has to be the main threat. The plus 1.1 first up at Caulfield gives you that confidence. The 9.6 WTI 2600 also gives you a level of confidence, Ralphie. I mean, the Raws that day were 23.9 below.
That's wet.
So if it's a heavy track, look out, right? Even if it's a slow 7. So this horse got all the right hallmarks.
And Vince, these two horses came through the same race. Light Infantryman and Whiskey on the Hill first up at Caulfield. The difference with Whiskey on the Hill was he over-exceeded the market expectations, but by the time he had 2 sideways runs, and he needed it because it was over at 2,600 rather than 2,000 Light Infantryman, and that was a fantastic training performance by Glenn Thompson and equally ride by Damien Lane.
Yeah, beautiful. Overall performance, 1.1 length below benchmark. That's a neat performance given the circumstances of the day. And of course, we've got a completely different setup in terms of pace. I mean, I'm just laughing now, 10.2 lengths below benchmark. But that's what you would expect.
Yes.
This sort of ground condition. And then you're going to save that energy for a big last half of the race. And that's really what we've seen from 10.2 below benchmark to almost hitting benchmark between the 8 and the 4, and then the last 400, 4 lengths below benchmark, was all out. Didn't quite get in the top 20. Not an easy thing to do when you're up at that sort of distance range. Good effort. I really felt both the first and second horses ran superbly, Ralphie.
It's another good lesson that the long-term play is just go with the obvious, because Desert Hero, as great as this stable was, and this is one point you were keen to make on our Friday podcast, was that as good and the Saturday update, as good as this stable is, it just wasn't the right setup compared to 2 horses that you knew had the mouthguard in and were ready to come to play with Whiskey on the Hill and Let's Deal.
Yeah, and this is the thing, sometimes, as good as trainers are, things don't quite pan out on having yourself like where you need to be. But overall, it was a good effort as well from this horse, given that it was just that one run behind. I have no doubt this horse is going to be a excellent improver off that, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with this horse going forward.
All right, well, let's look at the big races at Rose Hill. Firstly, how did Rose Hill play? There was a little bit of the head scratcher race morning was how slow it would be. So how did it present?
Yeah, well, this is pretty crazy as well. We started off the day 11.5 lengths below benchmark. Race 2 was 7.3 below, 2,000 metre race, which had really good speed, Ralphie. Race the 1400 metre race. Again, the lead pace around 3 lengths below. Overall was 19.5 lengths below benchmark. Race 4, we were 8 below. Race 5, around the 9 mark. Race 6, slow pace. Can't probably lock that down, but it was 17 below benchmark. The theme of the day for me was, until you got really late in the day, like the last 3 races, we were 100% in the S7 range. I would say maybe the last 3 races slightly better. We were probably trending closer to S6, but we were definitely in the slow 7 range all day.
All right, well, let's start with the Tancred, and what a brilliantly vision race this was on the visuals. What did Dubai Honor and Aeliana, who picked him off in the last couple of strides, do in the clock?
Good race, Ralphie. Good race. 4 lengths below benchmark. Dubai Honor first split time. That's a good speed. Again, if I look at the architecture of the day and how horses were running, this was like bang on what I would have considered to be good speed for this ground condition at 2400. Very interesting. In the middle, Dubai Honor obviously wanted to try and take that race home, and it absolutely put the foot down in the ground conditions, going from 4.1 below to plus 1.4. It's very hard to do a big mid-race squeeze when you've got to deal with soft 7 ground conditions and you're already going at a really swift tempo to try and get a big squeeze in the middle. But the horse gave everything that it had, and it was a plus 1.4, almost a 6-length mid-race squeeze. Even the last 400 metres, Ralphie, 0.8 below benchmark. So this horse turned up in excellent condition, like excellent. For that, 3.2 lengths above benchmark overall. And Aeliana, 3.5 above overall, Ralphie. What a beautiful position. 1.4 lengths behind Dubai Honor through the first section. I felt this is where the horse won it, in the mid. It didn't accelerate as aggressively as Dubai Honor. Only 0.5 below, still tagging it 2, and left everything for the last 400 metres. And that was the difference. It was just the difference of the power in the last 400 that I felt won at the race. And of course, being super match ready. 3.5 above, superb. Like that's a powerful number for 2400, Rob.
That's your quick backup 101, isn't it? To know that you're going to be rock hard fit, and the confidence of James McDonald at the 200 metre mark. I probably saw this more in the post race interview than I did watching it, but he just said, "No, I thought there was still more to come." And I tell you what, we don't often see this. Talk about the numbers. We don't often see Pride of Jenny. Don't often see the 8th best last 200 of the day over 2400, do we? So that shows you what an elite level of acceleration Aeliana has.
Yeah, and worthy of a new PB, 3.5 above, Ralphie. I mean, that's a big milestone for this horse, and I really just feel that it's just cracked another level, and that grit was there to want to win. You start to get in awe of these sort of horses when they do these type of efforts. Now, of course, there was no blistering above benchmark, but it's on slow 7 ground, Ralphie.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable that they can do that. And again, brings in that versatility. I mean, look how versatile this horse is. It can be 1400 metre race all the way to 24 and show this capability. It's outstanding.
How did that compare to a Derby win this time last year, where only other 2400 run?
Well, that was a plus 2.3.
Yeah.
And if we look at it, the horse has gone almost a length and a quarter better than that. That's the evolution of the horse. Pretty much franking that it's come to a new top. And got to say it, Ralphie, there's no way we've seen the best of this horse. It's a 4-year-old mare. We see it all the time with these mares. They get older. They still find they only have to improve a length and a half, and before you know it, they're at the very top of their game anywhere in the country.
So Chris Wallace said 2 words that was very interesting after the race. He said, "This could be the next Very Elegant." Now, let's think about this. Very Elegant was known as a 1600 to 2400 type star, but he won a Melbourne Cup with her.
Yep. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Well, if you look at that Randwick run, for instance, going back in 2025 April, you just look at that setup of speed, 9.2 lengths below benchmark, on a completely different surface. Like, that surface of the ground was genuinely faster than what we had on the weekend. And then you look at the ability of its close between the 8 and the 4 plus 2.7, like 11.5 mid-range squeeze, and then managed a plus 5.1. Now we've gone 4 lengths faster on inferior condition, and then I look at the last 400, and the variation is a bit more than 2 lengths. So imagine if this track was a G4. You probably close that gap, and the horse runs in the 4s. Well, that'll probably win you almost any Caulfield Cup. And this is whether they go to something like that or not. For me, I'm just looking at it about that if you can reach that level, that's like golden spot for what you need to do for a Melbourne Cup.
Well, very elegant Caulfield Cup as well. The first time round, wasn't it? So,
Yep.
Wow, that's exciting stuff. Let's have a look at the Vinery, race 6 on the program. The head scratcher on Friday, Vince, was how slow would they go? And as we often say, and many say it, slow races can create chaos in the end. So we get 1.1 lengths between the first 6. Belchevelle got the bob in. What did we see on the clock? What did we learn from it?
Well, probably learnt a few things. Number one, probably for me, it sort of franked where I felt that EP Wind's capability was at.
Yep.
Even though, I mean, the pace was 11 lengths below benchmark round figures. The winner going 13.1, like a beautiful spot. Really, the whole field, given the ground conditions, they were running at the right pace, Ralphie, because even if you make an adjustment for that, that still puts you in the mid 6 to 8 lengths below benchmark range. So that's a good speed, comfortable speed for you to be able to put down an optimum performance. And for Belchevelle, the winner, really, to make that step up, that's the sort of shape you probably wanted. And then in the mid, it wasn't over aggressive. It was there. It was still a 10.4 length mid-race move. But the horse actually managed to improve on that as well over the last 400 with a 1.7 below. And then if I look at a horse like, say, Opie Wins as an example, who's giving it 2.5 lengths head start, I would have expected something more over the last 400, yet its difference in overall speed was only 0.1 better than Belchevelle. That says a lot about, like, it's a good horse, but maybe not that good.
Summer was a weird run. It looked gone, and then Belchevelle sort of ducked out under pressure and came again, hence the protest. But it does show in the numbers here. It was a significant pickup last 200 metres.
Wasn't it ever? Like, it's like finding the second wind.
Yeah.
But then you look at the energy distribution, for instance, Ralphie, of the hidden fractions. Belchevelle 2 lengths below, 8 to the 6. After Summer 2.1. So they're lockstep, right? But 6 to the 4, after Summer's only incrementally improved from 1.8 below, 2.1 below to 1.8. Belchevelle's, I reckon, gone to try and win it, right? 0.7 below. Like, I know we're talking fraction, but it's over a length of increase in speed. And then you look at the 4 to the 6, after Summer, again, was only a marginal creep from 1.8 below to 1.5 below. Belchevelle's gone even quicker again and didn't get to benchmark, but 0.4 below. It was all out. And you could see that's why the horse started shifting over the last couple of 100 metres, because it's done.
Yeah.
And you see a length of velocity loss, and it just comes down to the right, because, I mean, the second horse has been able to find 1.3 lengths over the last 200 metres, and I just feel this has got to do with energy management. It managed the run to perfection to leave everything for the last 200 metres. Well, in the end, it was really, there was nothing between them, was it?
Yeah, of course. A cigarette paper. So what's your gut feel? We'll do this in 2 weeks' time, obviously. Probably what would be your gut feel for 2,400 for these horses?
I feel that they're all going to get it.
Yep.
I don't feel there's going to be a problem because it always comes down to pace, Ralphie.
Of course.
If you go out and you have a stroll, you're going to get it.
Yep.
If you go out and you have Bunsen burners on and you want to run 10 lengths faster, well, you might not get it. Well, if you do win, you'll be winning with a very, very slow last 600, 800.
Well, hat tip to the winners there on some real good racing. There's even better racing this week. Wowee, is it a card and a half? So we've got the TJ Smith, we've got the Doncaster, we've got the Derby, Size Produce, many other good races on the deep card at Randwick. So it'll be our Easter present that we can't wait to unwrap this Friday. So Good Friday, we're working early because, of course, we're doing the preview podcast. If you want to be part of that, just click through links, racetrackralphie.com.au, get my preview podcast. Of course, if you're an existing Daily Sectionals customer, because your purchase comes with race speed profiles, you can just get an audio only top up there. And of course we do a 10-15 minute top up on the Saturday morning as well. So that's going to be our real deep dive this week. Can't wait for it. I hope you're part of that. In the meantime, thanks so much for listening to Year Round Carnival. We're going to look at some other races from both Flemington and Rosehill for our members bonus. And if you want to become a member, just click through links and you'll get the members bonus podcast that regularly finds plenty of nuggets for our fantastic members. Thanks so much for listening to Year Round Carnival.